JavaScript is one of the most popular programming languages in the world, with over 2 billion websites currently using it. But have you ever wondered who actually invented JavaScript? If you thought it was Brendan Eich, then you'd be wrong. Well, maybe he invented it, but that's not the whole story. So let me tell you the history of how JavaScript was invented. In 1995, Netscape Communications was a big player in the browser wars. They had created the first popular graphical web browser called Netscape Navigator. And to make their browser even better, they wanted to add an easy scripting language for developers to use so they could create cool features for their websites. The problem was they didn't have a scripting language. So what did they do? They stole one. I'm just kidding. They didn't steal it, but they hired someone to build a new scripting language called LiveScript. That person was Brendan Eich, a famous programmer who previously worked at Apple. He was tasked to build a simple object-oriented scripting language in just 10 days. And since he was already familiar with the Java programming language, he decided to name his new scripting language JavaScript. Unfortunately, he didn't have 10 days, and he only took 8. On May 1995, he finished the language, and wow, it was a hit. Web developers loved it because it made it possible to create dynamic and interactive websites. But JavaScript wasn't perfect. It was missing some key features that Java had. For example, it couldn't handle dates very well, and it didn't have its own math functions. So Eich continued to work on the language and improve it. In 1996, he added a feature called that allowed developers to create objects without using classes. This made JavaScript even more object-oriented. Then, in 1998, he joined Sun Microsystems, the company behind the Java programming language. There he worked on making JavaScript more compatible with Java. He also created the JavaScript 1.5 edition, which added support for regular expressions, JSON, and more. But there was a problem. Even though JavaScript was very popular, it was not standardized. Every browser implemented it differently, so websites would often break when moving from one browser to another. To solve this problem, Eich and other language experts created a new organization called the European Computer Manufacturers Association, or ECMA. They published the first official specification for JavaScript in 1997, and they kept updating it as the language evolved. Now you might be wondering, why did they choose ECMA to standardize JavaScript? Why not let the World Wide Web Consortium, or W3C, do it? Well, that's because the W3C was too slow and bureaucratic. They wanted to take years to get things right, while ECMA was faster and more agile. However, this caused some tension between ECMA and the W3C. The W3C felt that ECMA was a competitor, and they didn't like that ECMA was making changes to JavaScript without their input. So they created their own version of JavaScript called LiveHTML. This caused even more confusion and chaos for web developers who now had 3 different versions of JavaScript to deal with. That's when Netscape decided to merge the 2 versions and create a new edition of JavaScript. They asked Brendan Eich to lead the effort, but he declined because he was busy working on another project called ActionScript. So they asked another Netscape engineer named Mike Sherov to take over. Mike spent months negotiating with the W3C, ECMA, and other stakeholders to get everyone to agree on a single version of JavaScript. Finally, in 1998, they published JavaScript 1.5 as an official ECMA standard. This is the version that is still used today with some minor updates. But wait, there's more. You see, while JavaScript was being standardized, another group of language experts was working on a new scripting language called LiveScript. This language was very similar to JavaScript, but it was more powerful and feature-rich. Some of the features that it had included support for object-oriented programming, functional programming, and logic programming. It also had a just-in-time compiler, which made it run faster than JavaScript. The problem was nobody knew about it because it was top secret. The reason why they kept it secret was to surprise Netscape and prevent them from stealing their language. You see, Netscape was planning to release their own version of JavaScript 2.0, and they didn't want other companies like Microsoft and Oracle to see what they were doing. So they kept LiveScript under wraps until they were ready to launch it. But when they finally revealed it to the world, it was too late. Netscape had already released JavaScript 2.0, and web developers were already using it. So LiveScript never became popular, and it died out. But here's where things get weird. In 2009, a man named James M. Hertzen wrote a blog post claiming that he invented JavaScript. He said that he developed the language in 1994 while working at a company called Frontier Technologies. He also said that he gave the source code to his boss, who was the CEO of Frontier, and that the CEO stole his invention and sold it to Netscape for $1 million. However, he never filed any lawsuit or provided any evidence to support his claim. Also, many people who worked at Frontier denied knowing anything about JavaScript. So it's likely that Hertzen was either lying or mistaken. Maybe he did develop a similar language at Frontier, but it wasn't JavaScript. Or maybe he was just a disgruntled employee who wanted to take revenge on his boss. We don't know because there's no solid evidence to prove his story. So, who really invented JavaScript? Well, the answer is both Brendan Eich and Mike Sherwood. They were the main architects of the language, and they shaped it into what it is today, but they didn't invent it in a vacuum. They built upon the work of many other engineers and researchers who came before them. For example, they borrowed syntax from the Java programming language. They used ideas from the self-programming language to make JavaScript prototype-based. And they adopted features from other languages like C, Python, and Ruby. So JavaScript is kind of like a remix of all these languages, which makes it unique and sometimes confusing. Today, JavaScript continues to evolve and change. There are new frameworks and libraries being created every day. And the language itself is being updated with new features such as async await, modules, and more. Who knows what the future holds for JavaScript? But one thing is for sure, it will continue to be one of the most popular and influential programming languages in the world. So who do you think deserves the most credit for inventing JavaScript? Is it Brendan Eich or Mike Sherwood, or do you think it's another person or team? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe for more content. My name is Peter, and I am the CEO of Citify Tech. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.